Howdy, folks! Ever wonder about those fierce warriors from the north, the ones with horned helmets and a thirst for adventure? Well, those were the Vikings. A lot of what you might have heard about them is probably wrong. No horned helmets here, but their story? It's a wild ride through history, full of exploration, battles, and a culture that left its mark on the world. Today, we're diving deep into the world of the Vikings. We'll uncover the truth behind the myths, explore their vast journeys, and discover how these incredible seafarers shaped our world. From the icy fjords of Scandinavia to the sunny shores of North America, the Vikings were renowned explorers who ventured far beyond known horizons. These weren't just fearless warriors, they were skilled craftsmen, traders, and storytellers who left an unforgettable legacy. Get ready to uncover the secrets of Viking shipbuilding, marvel at their intricate artwork, and understand the complex society they built. We'll meet legendary figures like Ragnar Lothbrok, Leif Erikson, and Harald Hardrada, whose names echo through history. So buckle up, grab your explorer's hat, and join us on Lexopedia as we set sail into the thrilling world of the Vikings. Now, to understand the Vikings, we gotta head back to their roots in Scandinavia. That's Denmark, Norway, and Sweden for you and me. Picture this: rugged landscapes, long winters, and short growing seasons. Life wasn't easy. They weren't farmers like folks further south. The Vikings relied on fishing, seafaring, and trading to get by. Their connection to the sea ran deep, shaping their culture and their destiny. These folks weren't unified under one king or empire. Nope, they were divided into numerous independent tribes and clans, each with their own chieftain. Imagine a patchwork of communities spread across those icy lands. They competed, they traded, and sometimes they just plain fought each other. Now, let's talk about Viking society. It wasn't all about raiding and pillaging, though they did their fair share of that. They had a complex social structure with different classes: jarls, carls, and thralls. The jarls were at the top, the chieftains, the leaders, the big shots. Think of them like the CEOs of the Viking world. Next, you had the carls, the freemen. These were the farmers, fishermen, and craftsmen. They were the backbone of Viking society, the folks who kept things running. And finally, you had the thralls, the slaves. They were at the bottom of the social ladder, folks who were captured in battle or sold into slavery. One thing that made the Vikings different was their view of women. Viking women had more freedom and rights than most women in other cultures at the time. So, what made these tough, independent folks set sail and conquer? There wasn't one single reason, more like a perfect storm of factors. One big reason was overpopulation. See, Scandinavia was getting a bit crowded. Good farmland was scarce, and those Viking sons, they needed land to inherit. Plus, word was spreading about the wealthy monasteries and towns in other parts of Europe. They saw an opportunity to gain wealth and land, and they took it. The Vikings were master shipbuilders. Their longships, these sleek, fast, and incredibly strong vessels, could navigate rivers and seas with ease. All right, let's talk exploration. The Vikings weren't content just staying put in Scandinavia. Nope, they had a serious case of wanderlust. They were driven by curiosity, a thirst for adventure, and let's be honest, a desire for riches and glory. These weren't just random voyages, though. The Vikings were skilled navigators. They used the stars, the sun, the wind, and even the waves to find their way across vast distances. They didn't have fancy compasses or maps like we do today. They relied on their knowledge passed down through generations, their instincts, and a good dose of courage to navigate the open ocean. They built their ships, these incredible longships, with shallow drafts that allowed them to navigate rivers and coastlines and sail far out to sea. These ships were fast, maneuverable, and tough as nails. One direction the Vikings sailed was east, into the heart of what is now Russia. They weren't just raiders, you know. The Vikings were shrewd traders too. They established important trade routes along the rivers of Eastern Europe, connecting Scandinavia to the Byzantine Empire and their riches of the East. Imagine these Viking ships laden with furs, timber, honey, and slaves sailing down the rivers of Russia. They traded these goods for silver, silks, spices, and other treasures from far-off lands. They even reached the Caspian Sea. Can you believe that? These voyages weren't for the faint of heart. The Vikings faced dangers from treacherous rapids, rival traders, and sometimes hostile locals. They established settlements and trading posts along the way, some of which would grow into major cities, like Kiev, the future capital of Ukraine. While some Vikings ventured east, others set their sights west, across the vast expanse of the Atlantic Ocean. They sailed to islands that had never been seen by European eyes before. Around the year 870, a Viking named Nadodur was blown off course on a voyage to Iceland and became the first European to set foot on this island of fire and ice. Iceland was a harsh land, but the Vikings, they were a hardy bunch. They established settlements, raised sheep, and made a go of it. Then came Eric the Red, a Viking with a bit of a temper, you could say. He was banished from Iceland for, get this, manslaughter. So what does Eric do? He sets sail even further west and discovers Greenland. Greenland was even tougher than Iceland, but Eric, being a bit of a salesman, called it Greenland to attract settlers. The Viking age of exploration may have lasted for a few centuries, but its impact on the world was immense. They pushed the boundaries of the known world, expanded trade routes, and connected cultures across continents. They left their mark on the landscapes they explored, from the place names of Iceland to the genetic makeup of the people in Ireland and Russia. Their voyages weren't just about plunder and conquest, they were about discovery, survival, and the human spirit of adventure. The Vikings' voyages helped to reshape the map of Europe and beyond. They paved the way for future explorers and traders, and their stories continue to capture our imaginations today. They remind us that, even in a time without compasses and maps, with courage, ingenuity, and a bit of luck, incredible journeys are possible. Alright folks, let's dive into the world of Viking warriors and leaders. Now, Viking history is full of larger-than-life figures, tales of daring raids, and epic battles. But here's the thing. Separating fact from fiction can be tricky. See, the Vikings didn't keep written records like folks do today. They passed down their stories through songs, poems, and sagas, often embellished with mythical elements. These stories were meant to entertain, sure, but they also served a purpose. They taught Viking values: courage, strength, cunning, and loyalty. You've probably heard the name Ragnar Lothbrok. He's one of the most famous Vikings, even if some historians debate whether he was a real person or a composite of several Viking leaders. Regardless, his story, as told in the sagas, is the stuff of legends. Ragnar was said to be a descendant of Odin, the Norse god of war and wisdom. Talk about good genes. He was known for his bravery, his cunning, and his insatiable appetite for adventure and, well, raiding. Ragnar led daring raids on England and France in the 9th century, striking fear into the hearts of kings and commoners alike. He sailed up rivers, plundered wealthy monasteries and towns, and always seemed to be one step ahead of his enemies. One story tells of how Ragnar used trickery to capture the city of Paris. Now let's talk about a Viking who went west instead of east, a man who made history by setting foot on North American soil. Leif Erikson. Leif was the son of Eric the Red, the fellow who settled Greenland. You could say exploration ran in the family. According to the sagas, Leif heard tales of a land west of Greenland, and being a true Viking, he set out to find it. Around the year 1000, almost 500 years before Columbus, Leif Erikson and his crew landed in a place he called Vinland, which is believed to be somewhere along the coast of Newfoundland, Canada. They explored the area, built a small settlement, and even encountered the native people, whom they called Skraelings. The Viking settlement in Vinland didn't last long, probably due to conflicts with the native people and the challenges of surviving in a new land so far from home. But Leif Erikson's voyage was a remarkable feat of navigation and exploration. Alright folks, we've talked about Viking raids and explorations, but what was life like for the average Viking back home? Well, it wasn't all axes and adventures. Viking society was actually pretty complex, with a strong emphasis on family, community, and a good dose of storytelling around the fire. Most Vikings weren't out raiding and pillaging. They were farmers, fishermen, craftsmen, and traders, just trying to make a living in a sometimes harsh environment. They lived in small villages, often near the coast or rivers, in houses built of wood, stone, or even turf. Family was incredibly important to the Vikings. They valued loyalty, honor, and kinship above all else. And don't forget, Viking women had more rights and freedoms than most women in other cultures at the time. They could own property, inherit wealth, and even divorce their husbands. Now, let's talk about the Viking spiritual side. They had a rich mythology full of powerful gods, epic tales, and a healthy dose of fate and destiny. Their beliefs weren't confined to fancy temples or priests. Nope, religion was interwoven into their daily lives. They believed in a pantheon of gods, each with their own personality and domain. There was Odin, the All-Father, god of wisdom, war, and poetry. Thor, the god of thunder, with his mighty hammer Mjolnir, was a favorite among warriors. And Freyja, the goddess of love, beauty, and fertility, was a powerful figure. The Vikings believed in fate, that your destiny was predetermined. We can't talk about Vikings without talking about their ships. These weren't just boats, folks. They were marvels of engineering and craftsmanship. The Vikings were masters of shipbuilding, and their longships were key to their success. These ships were designed for speed, maneuverability, and seaworthiness. Clinker-built hulls made them strong and flexible. This allowed the ships to flex with the waves. Shallow drafted, they could navigate rivers and coastlines. Powered by sails and oars, they were versatile and fast. Built by hand, using axes and adzes. These ships were works of art and symbols of Viking ingenuity. The Viking Age eventually came to an end. By the 11th century, their dominance began to wane. A perfect storm of factors chipped away at their power. Climate change was a major factor. The medieval warm period began to cool. Shorter growing seasons and harsher winters led to hungry Vikings. Europe was also changing. Stronger kingdoms with bigger armies emerged, and then Christianity spread among the Vikings. The old ways didn't fit with the new faith. Even though the Viking Age ended, their impact was anything but temporary. Like a ripple effect, their influence spread long after their longships stopped sailing. They left a legacy that fascinates and inspires us today. They were incredible explorers. Remember Leif Erikson and his jaunt to North America? They pushed the boundaries of the known world. They established trade routes connecting distant cultures, and their shipbuilding skills revolutionized seafaring. Their designs influenced shipbuilding for centuries. The Vikings left their mark on language, law, and art. The Vikings, with their fierce reputation, their adventurous spirit, and their captivating mythology, continue to capture our imaginations today. From books and movies to TV shows and video games, the Vikings are everywhere. Sometimes they're portrayed as bloodthirsty barbarians raiding and pillaging their way across the land. Other times, they're depicted as noble explorers, skilled craftsmen, and even as wise rulers. The truth, as is often the case, lies somewhere in between. But that's the beauty of the Vikings, isn't it? They defy easy categorization. They were complex, multifaceted people who left an undeniable mark on history. And their stories, whether rooted in historical fact or embellished by legend, continue to resonate with us today. Maybe it's their adventurous spirit, their connection to nature, or their unwavering courage in the face of the unknown that speaks to something deep within us. Whatever the reason, the Vikings continue to fascinate, inspire, and even challenge us to rethink our own place in the grand tapestry of history. Well, folks, there you have it. We've journeyed through time, explored distant lands, and met some legendary figures. The Vikings, fierce warriors, skilled seafarers, and shrewd traders, left an indelible mark. Their story is one of adventure, conflict, cultural exchange, and adaptation. They rose to power, pushing boundaries and leaving a legacy that shapes our world today. From Scandinavia to North America, their voyages redefined what was possible. They remind us that with courage, ingenuity, and curiosity, incredible feats can be accomplished. The Vikings weren't perfect. They could be ruthless raiders, but also skilled craftsmen, traders, and storytellers. Their complex culture, with its values, beliefs, and traditions, continues to echo today. Those traditions, passed down through generations, still resonate in art, music, and folklore. So the next time you hear the word Viking, remember that it represents more than just horned helmets and pillaging. It represents a complex and fascinating chapter in human history, a time of exploration, adaptation, and cultural exchange that continues to shape our world today. If you enjoyed this epic tale of Vikings, be sure to give this video a thumbs up and subscribe to Lexopedia for more fascinating journeys through history. And hey, don't be shy. Leave a comment below and tell us what surprised you the most about the Vikings. Did you know they reached North America before Columbus? What other historical mysteries should we unravel next? Thanks for joining us on this adventure, folks. Keep exploring, keep questioning, and keep the spirit of curiosity alive. Until next time, this is Lexopedia signing off.